We've talked before about various ways to make money on the side, but how do you succeed at making a few extra dollars while not interfering with your day job? Robert Farrington runs a site called The College Investor, and he grew his side hustle into an impressive business, all while holding down a day job in the retail sector. He shares how he was able to do this and gives tips to help others balance a job, a side gig, and family. Welcome to the MapleMoney Show, the podcast that helps Canadians improve their personal finances to create lasting financial freedom. Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Borrowell. I use Borrowell myself to check my credit score and credit reports each month. Having a good credit score can help you get a better mortgage rate and lower insurance rates. It may even help you land that dream apartment, as most landlords now ask for a credit score and report. Get your free credit score in under 3 minutes at maplemoney.com/borrowell. That's maplemoney.com/BORROWELL. Now let's chat with Robert. Hi, Robert. Welcome to the Maple Money Show.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So your story's similar to mine, going back to when you had your day job. I always found yours a little more impressive, though. So what we want to talk today about is sort of this idea of side hustling while you have a day job. Can we go right back to the sort of the beginning of it when you were working at Target? Can you tell me what that job was about like first?
Yeah. So I started the College Investor when I was in college. Like I was finishing up my last year and I was already working at Target. I was like an hourly supervisor at the time. But I always had this passion for money and technology. And so everything kind of came together. I was like, I'm going to start a blog. And it was really just a passion project. I had no intention of making any money necessarily. I mean, of course, that was a nice idea, but I was just passionate about it. But once I started working full time, I finished my college degree. I got promoted. I was like the assistant store manager now. And I really still enjoyed blogging. And I started learning a little bit about how to make money. I started networking with other bloggers. And so it was really becoming a really cool side hustle. And I was working 40 to 50 hours a week as a Target assistant store manager. And I was able to make it work because I was very passionate about it and I enjoyed it. And I think when you want to do something, you always find the time to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said 40 to 50 hours. I thought it might have been worse. I know from my past in retail, like that, especially at a management level in retail, that can be kind of a real time suck where you can't just like work 8 to 4 and leave or anything like that, right?
You're totally right. But the retail schedule actually works really well for a side hustle. So, in a store, I worked, one night a week. And that night meant I used to go in at like 3 p.m. or so, and I'd work until 11 or 12. And it meant weekends. But when you work a weekend, you also get a day off in the week. So I might have a Wednesday off, but I would work on a Saturday or a Sunday. But on the flip side, I had a Wednesday off. And you know how productive you can be on a Wednesday? Like when everyone else is at work and you can get things done. So, and then same thing at nighttime. Like if you didn't have to go to work till 3, you had like the whole morning that you could do things for your side hustle and yourself. And you still would find time to do things. And you're not like tired, right? Because like you woke up, you got like a whole day ahead of you. So it actually worked really well for having a side hustle. Even though it was 40 to 50 hours a week.
Yeah, that's a good point about having some weekday time available, because like with my day job, I'm Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. And not so much productivity wise, but if you want to talk to like a company or anything about working with them for your business, that's not easy. I basically have to do it during my lunch hours, schedule all my calls for 12 just to be able to work my business into that.
Exactly. And it's the same. If you want to record videos or if you want to podcast, like if you have guests on your show, being available during the day, during normal business hours is super helpful for growing a business or a side hustle. And so that's where, yes, it's a lot of time, but it also worked. And then, I could also focus on my regular days on Mondays and Tuesdays when I would work like an 8 to 5 or an 8 to 4. I get home, I'd spend time with my family. And so like, it wasn't like the side hustle, my work and my family were all conflicting. They all kind of fit together pretty well. And I do think that's attributed to the retail schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My schedule has always been pretty set. It's basically 8 to 4 I work. uh, get home, say 4 o'clock to about 8 o'clock with the family. Then they go to sleep, and then it's business time. But what what did your schedule look like? Like you touched on that your time shifted a bit, but sort of how many total hours were you putting into the business? So you're doing 40 to 50 at work. What's left going into the business at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still say I spent about 20 hours a week on the business, right?
Mhm.
I would have like maybe a 6 hour day and a 4 hour day on those weekdays. So that's 10 hours. And then I'd still probably put in an hour to 2 hours every single night, or like an hour, and then even on the weekends, right? And that also doesn't include like the random time. Like I would check my emails on my phone every day. One thing about Target is they lock all the computers down. So there was no working on my business while I was at work. The extent I could do was I could maybe check social media on my phone or check my emails on my phone, but it wasn't like I had any dedicated time during the workday to do it. Because I know there's some engineers and other people in our space that, were at their computer and they could work on their business and do their work at the same time. But that wasn't necessarily the case for me. It really was very distinct and different, and there was no real overlap between the two.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the engineers because there seems to be a high percentage of bloggers that are engineers for their job.
I know. That's the only reason I bring it up is it's like, but I feel like they're at the computer and they're, for whatever reason, they're able to do both. But I was never able to do both. And I actually feel like it's like a safer approach too to side hustling while working full time. Like, don't mix the two. When I left my day job last year, I would say a good 50 to 70% of people had no idea what my side hustle was. And it wasn't like I was trying to hide it, but I wasn't like, hey, I'm side hustling. What's up, guys? Like, it wasn't like a thing that came up, right? Like, and so unless people found it or like wanted to have more conversations about it, it wasn't a thing that really came up at all in the workplace.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess it's kind of that whole thing of sort of the myth of multitasking. Like sometimes it's better just to separate that, right?
I think you're totally right. And like, I think there's definitely things you can do. You could check social media, you could check some of your emails, but like, you also need that focus time that you can like actually think without being distracted.
Mhm.
And I think that's huge for growing your business, whether it's a side hustle or a regular business. And a side hustle is harder because you are doing it on the side. But, if you can find like an hour of distraction free time, which I think most people probably can, even if they're working full time, 1 hour a day somewhere, I think you can commit to a side hustle that could probably earn you some money over time.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in my situation of sort of working the regular shift of during the day on weekdays, and they'll often say they don't have time, but it's really they're spending like the entire evening watching TV. So there's always time to be found.
That's exactly it. And so that's, that was one thing that I always joke about is like, how did I find the time? So like before we had kids, I would actually sit on my laptop next to my wife on the couch. And my wife would be watching some terrible show, like The Real Housewives of like some place, or, Kardashians or whatever. And I would totally not be into this, but like I would be next to her and I would be blogging. And that was more entertaining for me. So it was like we were still together, but like she wanted to watch those shows and that's cool. But like I had no interest in that. So like I was able to, do my interests, which was writing and blogging, and while she was doing watching those shows.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about sort of how we were able to fit blogging into our business. Or fit blogging into our schedule. What are some of the other ideas? Like if someone wants to do some kind of side hustle, what's a good side hustle? Maybe just a short list of what people could do while still holding down a day job.
Yeah, like I actually just wrote about my best side hustles and I broke that
Right.
down because I think scheduling and income is huge. It's not just about like growth potential, but like what do you want to do? So, this may sound weird because I know these ride sharing companies get bashed a lot because you don't earn a lot. But I think ride sharing and driving for an Uber or a Lyft or, whatever companies out there, or like delivering, because now there's all these like ride delivering companies, whether it's Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates. I think those are phenomenal side hustles. And here's why. It is the only type of side hustle that you could literally do anywhere, anytime and earn money. Like if you are free at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, you could literally drive somebody for Uber and make some money. Now, there's no one to report to, there's no commitments, there's no time, there's no upfront investment. And so that's why I think those are phenomenally good side hustles. Is it going to change your life and make you a millionaire? No. But will it allow you to earn some extra money that you could potentially pay off your debt in a year? Could you put a little bit more towards your retirement account because you're trying to close a gap in your savings? Yes, those side hustles allow it. So I'm a huge fan of those for people that don't necessarily want to start a business, but want to be able to do something that's totally flexible on their terms and earn money.
Yeah, the Uber idea is, it reminds me of even before these apps existed, that you could just start delivering pizzas or something. And obviously not as flexible. You have to have a schedule, but there's certainly ways to make money in the evening that doesn't. It's not glamorous. It's not the highest pay, but it's additional income. This is on top of your day job.
And that's so true. Like, at Target, I used to hire a ton of seasonal workers every year, right? And a lot of them were trying to get this job for 2 months. They just wanted a part-time job to make some extra money for Christmas or to pay off debt or something similar. They knew it wasn't glamorous, but it was structured. You still had to be there for a shift and you had to get hired and you have to get trained. You have to do all this. Like with these companies, there's no structure. There's no boss. There's no, requirement. If you have some time today, you could do it for an hour and then go back to your life. I was recently in an Uber the other day and it was a teacher. And she says she turns on the app every day when she's done with teaching at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And she goes until 6. And what it allowed her to do is she says she's going to have her student loans paid off in about 18 months, which is huge. And so like, if you're just looking for that little bit of extra money, you could totally do that on your terms. Where else are you going to be able to work for like an hour and a half a day and do that, right?
That's a good point. I'm no Uber expert, but I heard now that they even have sort of options where if you're on your way home from work, like say you have a long commute or something, you can kind of turn it on specifically to get a ride to help someone get a ride from this point to that point.
Yeah, so you could do directional, right? So like if people are going in that direction, it'll try to like use an algorithm to like make sure you're going in that way. So it's pretty cool. And like I said, but it's the potential to side hustle and earn on your terms, which is very, very rare.
Yeah, for sure. So I figure one way you were probably able to fit this in, and we've talked about this privately a lot too, is that I know you're super organized and sort of able to stay on top of everything. Do you have any sort of time or productivity hacks that let you manage having this day job and a business on the side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big, like, if it gets written down, it gets done kind of person. So I have a calendar. I use Google Calendar, nothing fancy, but like I would block off my work time. And as little weird as that sounds, like, I mean, like, I'm an adult. Do I really need to write my schedule down? Like, yes, I would actually put like work in the calendar and just have it blocked. And then I would have calls and I would have tasks and projects and family time blocked in my calendar. And then I would use Asana. Like it's just a to-do list. You could use to do any kind of app. You could use a piece of paper and just write down a to-do list. I would always have intentional things I wanted to do during my time. And what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to minimize that switching time. Like I didn't have to I would get home from work and it wasn't like I was spending time like, what do I need to do? Yada, yada, yada. Like, no, it's like, go do X, Y, Z, just knock out the to-do list. And my to-do list in Asana, it's automated. So like it would say things like, did you share your blog post today? Like very basic things. Did you answer your comments for your readers? So it was like, I would just do this on a routine and no thinking was necessarily required so that it allowed me to just I knew my time started at 8 o'clock and I could dive right in and just start knocking out tasks. And then I also feel like you get that little I don't know, like that little high or that rush when you're checking off tasks, right? Like they say it's like a mental thing, but when you're completing your task list, you feel good. And so not only will you're getting things done, and I didn't have to think about it, but you feel good when you get everything knocked out for the day.
Yeah, I've been guilty in the past too of sort of having busy time where it's like I'm pretending to work, but I'm not really getting anything accomplished because I don't have a solid list to go through.
Right. And then, I have some other thing, I sold my car and I ride share everywhere, right? So I take Uber everywhere. But the cool thing is I'm not driving. So when I'm in the car, I can knock out my emails. I can knock out my social media. I can respond to people. By the time I actually get to a computer, whether it's at home, or I'm going to like a co-working space or whatever, like all the, non-essential stuff is pretty much done. And so I could really just focus on my work time. So I'm getting like an extra 20 minutes per car ride. So 40 minutes a day of time by not driving and just sitting.
Yeah, I've kind of thought about that myself. If it's too bad that sort of the subway doesn't go between my house and my work or something like that, because I'd almost love to get out of the car and be able to do that, be on my phone or something. But
yeah.
I don't think we can make Uber work as well here as you. I will link to your post in the show notes, but I know you've actually been able to make Uber cheaper than owning the car in the first place. It's not just about productivity.
Exactly. I mean, it cost me like $200, $300 a month. The whole post was, right, like my car was dying. It was like, do I buy a new car or do I try this out? So I tried it out, and here I am 2 years later, and I love it. And it's so much more convenient. It's still about the same cost. Like I could go out and buy a car anytime. It's not like I need to. Like cars are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere, right? Yeah. So if it ever became an inconvenience, I could just go get a car. But it's been working for 2 years, and I love it. So
yeah, that sounds great. Any other sort of tips about growing a business during while you have a day job? Like, is there sort of any ideas that sort of take it to a next level, maybe working towards not having a day job?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big game changers were, for me, even as a side hustle, it's the same thing that I think applies in any business. The number one thing that changed my business and my side hustle was networking with other people in the space. Mm-hmm. So I think that sometimes, even when you're side hustling, you have to remember to connect with others. You might think you're in this silo and you don't have time, but you should really find the time to reach out, whether it's a blog or even if you're driving for Uber or Lyft, like join a community of people that are driving and see what hacks they have to make more money, because there are communities out there. I know of them. And, you can talk, you can network, you can learn how to do it better so that you could potentially earn more. And that was really a game changer for me. And I started just with email, then social media, and then calls and video calls. And eventually I went to in-person events like conferences. And I would take time off for work. I would never tell anyone what it was for. I would say I'm taking my vacation, right? Like my 1 week a year or 2 weeks a year, whatever you get. Like I take my week here and I'd mark it off, and I would use my work vacation and go to a conference. And I would learn and get educated and connect with others. And that was really a game changer for my business. Just learning what to do, because there's other people out there that are doing it better than you. Even side hustling, they're doing the side hustle better than you. And if you can learn from them, you can earn more.
Well, I got to assume nowadays there's probably a Facebook group for everything. There's certainly Uber drivers, but maybe pizza delivery. That everybody's probably got a Facebook group to where you can go and talk. Yeah,
absolutely. I saw a post the other day about Turo. Have you ever heard of Turo, about renting your car out?
Yes.
It's a service that lets you rent your car. And this person put together all their hacks and tricks about how they have 3 cars that they own, and they just rent out these 3 cars all the time, and it pays for themselves and they make money on it. But they're basically, no matter whatever odd thing you're thinking about doing, I guarantee you there's someone out there doing it and has probably shared some tips, tactics, ways to make it better.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of networking. We just published a podcast episode about networking that we recorded live at FinCon, and yeah, I agree. It's probably the number one tip to sort of boost whatever business you're running.
Whatever business, but I think people ignore it when they side hustle. I know I did when I started out side hustling, because you just don't think about it. You think of all the to-do lists you have to do. You don't think that maybe people in your industry aren't going to value you as much, maybe because you're a side hustler, you're not doing this full time. And I think you got to kind of overcome these mental blocks and try to find this networking opportunities, even as a side hustler.
For sure. So now you've gone and quit your job. What's that look like now? Are you getting more work done, or you just have more free time with your family? So can you kind of walk us through what's changed?
Yeah, both. I mean, that's the cool thing is now I've taken this void of 40 to 50 hours, and I would still say that my work now is the side hustle. It's grown to about 30 hours a week, but it's not insane. But then the family time has filled in the rest, and the flexibility to do things that are valuable and important to me is huge, right? So, I enjoy my business. I enjoy my side hustle. So that's fun to do more of, but I really enjoy spending time with my kids, my family, and traveling, and not being necessarily bound by a schedule. So if I want to work today, I can. If I don't have to. I could do it at night. I could do it in the day. I could do it whatever meets the needs of our family, which is really nice to have that flexibility. Sometimes it's challenging, but because there's only one person in control here of whatever you want to do, and it's yourself. But at the same time, it's super flexible and really enjoyable.
That's great. Well, thanks for being on the show. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at thecollegeinvestor.com, or you can hit up our YouTube channel at College Investor and Instagram at The College Investor as well.
Great. Thanks for being on the show.
Definitely. Thanks, Tom, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Robert for the great insight on juggling a side hustle with a job and other priorities. You can find the show notes for this episode at MapleMoney.com/Robert Farrington, or head over to MapleMoney.com/show and catch all the past episodes. I'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast. Please head over to MapleMoney.com/iTunes and leave a rating and review and let me know how I'm doing. See you next week.